And we are live. Peppermint Thoughts, and let me just try to recreate the ideal situation. I've tried really hard to figure out why on earth the program sometimes stops working abruptly. And I think I'm not even gonna, no I haven't, but I'm doing things. Not things. And the cap's gonna fall off. Notes taken while watching. So we go back to the notepad. Now, the movie opens in media res, which it really didn't need to. I just got done watching the midnight screenings, and Brad Jones points out it's such a here's something interesting, and then so and so earlier or later, and here's the in Centurion they get really blatant. My name is my rank is this and this. This is not the beginning of our story or the end of it. Anyway, and we have a brief fight in the car, and the dude knifes. I'm just gonna call her Jen or Jennifer or Jennifer Garner or something like that. I realize her name in the movie is Riley North, but there might be some times where I refer to her as Sid or Sydney Bristow, because that's essentially, she gets more vicious than Sid ever does, and Jen plays that surprisingly well. That was always, my ex-fiance and I, who watched Alias together, always agreed that Jennifer Garner is just too sweet of a person to be able to pull off just completely ruthless. She does okay with that here. Anyway, knife goes into her leg and she shoots him in the face. And, right before that, he's like, you don't even remember me, do you? And he's, like, fuck you. And that's it. And, let's see, then we have some cool rock music playing over the opening. And, we get some images of, like, the city, some of the beach. Some of it is kind of ugly, some of it is pretty, And, we see Jen, limping slightly from the knife wound in her thigh, and, she gets to her car, and they left, the girl and her mom left this gift for her. I have a feeling, did Jennifer Garner have some kind of leg injury or like surgery in the middle of shooting this? Because I feel like every single time she walks back to her car of guns, she's limping because someone stabbed her. I don't know. Am I just... There's this at the start, and then near the end she gets stabbed by the bad guy. And, there it's in the side, but again, she's walking kind of funny, and not funny, haha. More not funny at all. And it just, I don't know, maybe there's just a thing, maybe the writer or director have some kind of thing for women limping back to their car of guns, I don't know. And, we see her deal with the wound, alcohol on it, like closing the wound, or bandaging, something like that, And, she gets, some sugar in her system because she's lost some blood, And then we get, 5 years ago, which is easily where the movie could have started. And, excuse me. And then you have this argument between I think her name is Peg. Just, I'm sorry, that's not her name. That's the acronym for her description. The description is, of course, petty, evil girl. And yeah, she's like, you took my parking space. I cannot believe this. You are the devil incarnate. And, Riley's like, oh, you're so rich, something. And then her daughter, Riley has got to be like either, I'm sorry, she's not really working hard to make sure her daughter doesn't use bad language. I mean, is the girl like 8 years old or something? And, the Peg leaves and she's like, she's such an asshole. You should have hit her in the face or something like that. Talking about hitting her in the face, that's one thing. But she uses the word asshole just like that. And Riley's like, that's, you don't use that word. Just, I mean, if she's really this, like, yeah, I would have expected her character to be more like, where did you learn that word? Never say that word again, I also kind of feel like Peg is almost the kind of character that Jen has been playing for years now. She's maybe a bit more uptight and vindictive. She is, as far as I know. I haven't watched those movies, but Jennifer Garner really isn't the type to go for really nasty roles. But I mean, I've seen Nostalgia Critic reviewed Timothy Green or whatever it's called, Tree Boy, way back, and in those clips, Garner seems like this kind of obsessive, like, are we raising our child right? Ooh, I just don't, I don't know, we gotta work harder on this, and just, yeah, other than the vindictive part, and yeah, just, it seems like Peg is almost the kind of role, which I guess makes, once she outright punches her, that sends a statement, it's like, don't even try to cast me in a role like this again. If you haven't watched the midnight screenings, or if you only watched the screen, the chat replay, like a bunch of people, like, I only just watched it for the first time, the midnight screenings video. It's been up for days, but the chat replay, tons of people are proposing sequel titles, and it's really, really awesome. And the daughter outright says, Riley says to her daughter, if you go around punching jerks, then you're just as bad as they are. Which is like, it's not subtle. It's about as subtle as a jackhammer to the nads. Before something terrible happens to her, she's like, oh, we don't use violence, that's not nice. And then once something really bad happens to her, she's literally doing to them what they've done to others, and in some cases much, much worse than they've done to others. I mean, there's no evidence that the lawyers or the judge they enabled, but they didn't directly hurt anyone, which, I mean, I get it, and I'm not sure that I would, in the particular situation, feel differently, though I would like to think that I would act completely differently. But yeah, I mean, she brutalizes them when, they they didn't directly, I don't know, I just feel like poetic justice would have been like, excuse me, basically, like the judge put her in a psychiatric ward, but she escaped on the way there. If she arranged for him to be in a psychiatric ward, you know, something like that, but just, yeah. And Jen is, of course, adorable before the murder of her family. Now, and it's at this point, I have to, before I proceed, I am, of course, going to have to go a little bit into detail about the horrendous, something truly evil is done to Riley and her family very early in this movie. It's her daughter's birthday, and Peg invites every single child who was going to be at the birthday to their own special thing, and leaves like a voicemail to make it absolutely clear that, yeah, it's her being vindictive and incredibly petty, and just, yeah. And not long after that, Riley's family are gunned down. I appreciate this kind of, you know, the vibe of this hard-working family who are just barely making ends meet and such, and, you know, there's a real sympathy for people who have very little means, much like the writer's other work, Dirty Laundry, which is amazing. I suppose this is a pretty decent time to get into this movie. It's fine. It's not gonna blow you away, but the critics have been really hard on it, and it's one of those where I feel like, I don't know, it's also, you know, you look on Rotten Tomatoes and it's, you know, either fresh or rotten, when really, I mean, this is a movie where I would say it could have been a lot worse, a lot less entertaining, and yeah, it's fine. You know, if you just want this kind of movie, then this will get the job done. You know, this is not like a movie where you think you're gonna get a certain thing, and then for a lot of it, it's not. No, throughout most of this movie, I realize that, you know, the people watching this, the idea is you've already watched the movie. But anyway, it just, yeah, you know, I'm saying what I think about it, which is not something that was in the movie. I feel like there's a pretty good amount of, you know, the just scenes of vigilantism and badassery. You know, I didn't really feel like the movie ever spent very long on anything that wasn't what we wanted from the movie. And I suppose, excuse me, now, just to briefly, I still enjoy this kind of movie, but I realize it's not really, you know, this is not the way to solve what we see in the movie is wish fulfillment. It's not the way to actually solve any of these problems. It's a conservative power fantasy, and yeah, when I was 13, I loved that, and yeah, I don't know, I think even back then I didn't really think that it would work, but I don't begrudge anyone for enjoying these movies, except from what I'm told by Renegade Cut, I don't think anybody should watch the Death Wish remake. You know, that movie really shouldn't get, considering how toxic it is. But, you know, if you want to see, I mean, that's why I went to the theater, to see Jennifer Garner being a badass. You know, I didn't go in expecting 13 going on 30. I didn't, you know, but in the real world, you know, there are criminals that need to be stopped, but some of these issues are more social issues that could be solved by giving people more opportunities, by, you know, improving education. You know, you have that guy, the dad that she threatens, and, you know, it's satisfying to think, yeah, people like that just need to be told off. You just gotta scare him straight. You know, he just has to pull himself up by his bootstraps and, you know, be a better father. But the reality is, him drinking is probably because he doesn't have prospects and he's trying to drink away the pain. It's not really an issue of, like, but yeah, you know, in some ways this is where Hollywood is stuck. It just gotta scare them straight, you know, just say no, kids, and yeah. Now, you know, for those bothered by such, Jennifer Garner does swear in this because, you know, she got to do this movie and she realized, I can't say fuck on ABC, but I can say it in this movie. You know, considering how cute she is, it is like, you know, at the same time, she can swear very casually. You know, I just rewatched The Kingdom, for example, and, you know, she also has these roles where she's very sexualized, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's just, it's not what you would expect when you just hear, you know, when you just see her being cute. You would think that she would balk at that kind of thing. Now, let's see. And we're told that, you know, Jennifer's husband, you know, make an example out of him, and, you know, a loud one. And let's see. What on earth did I write? Is this what? Well in pocket on sweet birthday carnival. Not. I have no idea what I wrote here. Now, yeah, I've already done morbid jokes on this, but this is gonna get real morbid. If hypothetically Peg hadn't gotten all the guests away from, you know, Riley's daughter, I'm sorry, I do not remember her name, and the drive-by had still happened, there's some chance that it would basically be like the start of that Alias parody. I think it's Alias, the lost episode, but with kids instead of Sydney Bristow's friends. Yeah. That might be the... I'm not sure I'm going to say anything else morbid for the rest. Nothing that morbid anyway. But, you know, they've all got ice cream, and Jen grabs napkins for them, and because of that, she doesn't get hit by as many bullets as her, you know, daughter and husband. Now, let's see. And, you know, one of the cops says to the other, you know, it's not supposed to be easy. That's what separates, that's the difference between us and them. And, you know, the nurse explains about Riley, you know, when she woke up, we had to restrain her, which, I mean, that's not any surprise. Have you not seen the College Humor video? Every hospital movie scene ever, and just, I mean, it happened off screen in this particular movie, but yeah. And, you know, Riley lived through a bullet wound to the head and woke up from a coma at, you know, an relatively opportune time, which I think makes her essentially the bride. I guess probably more likely this and Kill Bill both took inspiration for that detail from the same movies. Now, I think it's kind of ironic to have, you know, a positive ID be possible in a movie that thinks that all Mexicans look the same or are the same. I appreciate that this was not tasteless enough to show, you know, squibs going off on a child. And let's see. You know, and the cop tells the other cop, you know, Garcia's got people on the inside. They call him the guillotine. And, you know, there's the lawyer who goes in to try to bribe her, notices her eviction notice. And I do like the reveal there, that we don't know who it is who walks in there. And then in the trial, the camera pan, you know, and you see, oh, the guy who tried to bribe her was actually the defense attorney, which, you know, that's a nice, subtle, okay, not subtle, but it's, you know, they could easily have had, I had a bunch of sugar. They could very easily have had the thing be that, oh, you know, we already knew that the briber was, you know, hoping to make her a bribee, was the defense attorney, but yeah. And, you know, he bends the truth. He points out about the pills. I really appreciate that she says, I wasn't even taking them. You know, these are like, I don't think anybody says it directly, but basically that must mean that the doctors prescribed them before she was taken out of the hospital, and said, if you experience the following symptoms, take this amount of these antipsychotics. But yeah, you can have pills that you're not taking. You know, the doctor doesn't necessarily tell you the moment you get through the door, start taking these, you know, so yeah. And, you know, because they're just released without bail, Jen becomes furious and runs at the killers, and, you know, she gets tased by one of the guards, and the killers laugh. This is where I'd like to bring up that this movie doesn't even let you see, you only get to see one of the 3 drive-by guys killed on screen, and it's so brief, and at the time you don't even know that that's him, you know, because you haven't seen the drive-by at that point. But you don't get to see the other 2. I mean, you know, like this in the midnight screening, I thought that was what we were here for. I really thought Punisher from 2004 gets this right. And, you know, yeah, just, let's see. And, you know, Jen hit the cop with this, you know, gas can or something. It seemed like he was trying to help. You know, he's the one who gave her a chance to positively ID the guys, but yeah. And, in the present day, we see him finding the people she killed. And we have, a joke about bad coffee for cops. And the Fed in Inman, something like that. She, let's see. Yeah, she recognizes Jen from the, and we have one of those delicious scenes of like, I can't tell you what this is about. I'm just gonna walk away dramatically. I don't think it would have killed her to just, briefly say, I know exactly who this is. I have to talk to somebody about this. Instead of just walking. For all he knows, she suddenly remembered that she left the oven on. There's this guy who's a couple of seats away from me in the audience who, around this point, whispered to his friend, she was an A-list, she's so fucking cool. And yes, she is. Yes, she was, and yes, she is. And we're told that, Jen has, military-grade weapons, and she lives out of her van. And, she's tied up the judge, and she's like, if you can tell me my name, you live. You eat through a straw the rest of your life, but you live. And of course he can't. And, they're dealing with the FBI in this kind of case, when really, the FBI doesn't even do these kinds of checks. They've said that they don't want to do it. And, the cops go over, the 5 years and what she's been doing and this kind of stuff. I appreciate that scene wasn't terribly long because it wasn't that compelling of a scene, but I do, I echo everyone else who said, why didn't we get to see the training at all? And, she blew up the judge. Garcia says, put a price on her head, that will do it. I kind of thought that meant that, like, random criminals would try to kill her. But was that actually what happened? Wasn't it just a bunch of his guys that all tried to... It wasn't even that many. There's the two that set a trap. I guess that's it. The rest of them, she came to them. 2 shipments missing in a week. That gets you a warning, but next time I'm gonna have to, take their license. But this it's a pretty decent. I don't think we needed to see that. The movie keeps to a pretty quick pace, and there are definitely other things that I would rather have seen. But the fact that she lets that one guy live, and then he comes back, which is also a really moronic thing to do, and then Garcia realizes, oh, she knows about us. She's clearly done her homework, otherwise she wouldn't know who not to kill. Though, she wasn't being that careful all of the time when she was going around killing. Anyway, that tells Garcia, she's the one who's been dealing with, these shipments and such. If she had killed that guy or prevented him, she didn't get anything out of letting him live, did she? I don't think so. She could have just killed him, and then Garcia wouldn't have known that she got the information. It's just kind of lazy, And yeah, we have the scene where Jen, basically holds the drunk dad at gunpoint to get him straight, and she is badass in that scene. And she really, it's pretty funny how, she's like, I know your address, I will never forget you. And then, the guy, at the counter, she's like, if you ever sell him anything again, I'll blow this place up with you inside, or something like that. And let me think. Yeah, there was like a thing where, right after she grabs him on the floor, the guy at the counter looks over, and she points the gun at him like, would you mind still, something, and, sticks the gun in the guy's mouth. Yeah. Riley does come off as kind of a psycho at times. I mean, I guess they really, last we saw her, she was headed for a psychiatric ward. She was given, antipsychotic pills. We're never told exactly for what, unless the doctor was in on it, which I guess is entirely possible. This movie is very paranoid, and I mean, if she hasn't been taking her medication, I mean, if she has a condition, I mean, maybe she'll turn into what people have always said she was going to turn into. A mad dog killer. A maniac. And I just feel like, I don't know, was it intentional? Because when she's got the gun on drunk dad, I mean, I think everybody in the audience, enjoyed the scene and there were several chuckles. But at the same time, it's kind of like, it's kind of excessive, and I don't know if, maybe we're not really supposed to be on her side, at least not all of the time on her side. No. She kills the people that were directly involved really early, and then moves up, to the drug cartel people. And it is one of those things, I mean, the 2004 Punisher movie is nowhere near as swiftly paced as this is. A movie of that pace that's an action movie would not be that well received today, although I'm not sure it was particularly well received back then either. I maintain it's a pretty good movie. It does a lot of things right. In that movie, we got to see, it was very clear, these are the guys who did, who destroyed Frank's life. And yeah, you get to see him kill, at least some of them. I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't watched that movie. Although if you're into this movie, you probably should watch that movie as well. If you're watching this video, you haven't watched either of the movies, I would recommend that one over this one. But just, I don't know. I mean, it kind of seems like it got it backwards. It doesn't, There are several scenes in this movie where Jennifer Garner mows down, half a dozen people or more within a short space of time. If each of those scenes had one of the drive-by guys, then we would get to see them die on screen, which is what we want. This is a revenge movie. We want to see the revenge. And you would have had, they would have had more impact. It's fun to see the violence, but after a while it does get a little, been there, done that, because there isn't that much of a feeling. Yes, Garcia, we saw him give the order, early in the movie. We know for a fact this is the guy. So it's not like it doesn't matter at all, or it's just random, but I really feel like it's a wasted opportunity to not have, and in addition, have at least the two lawyers, maybe the judge as well, be around them and grab a gun. Then we can pretend that they've had a gun in their hand before and killed people, and then it would be more. But anyway, now I remember what the thing there's the scene where he gives the order, and he's got the other guy, Jimmy, I think he was called. And, the guy's like, he's been cut, he's all bloody, and he's sitting there, and I think he's got his hands tied behind his back, and, Garcia comes up to him, and he's got, like, the bills, and like, is this what you wanted? And he, like, throws them over, and they come down his face. I'm just thinking, I think that is what he wanted, but I think he wanted it in his pocket, not on his head, but I don't know, maybe that's how you pay for things. And let's see. I like the bit where Jen, there's this homeless person using a shopping cart, and Jen, disguises herself using that, and the drug cartel guys are like, I think you're in the wrong place or something like that, and you see her face there, and you see she's got the brass knuckles, she's got the knife, and she's like, I don't think so, and she just stabs the guy and punches the guy. Just really, really cool. And she steps on one guy's ankle and breaks the leg, which was very dirty laundry. It was even the kind of wonky CGI that it was in that, which, I mean, at the time I attributed that to limitations in budget, which might also explain why they used the Dark Knight score, although it is really well chosen and it's quite effective. But I don't know, I guess maybe this was intentionally bad CG. I mean, I feel like some of the CG in the rest of the movie is better, but yeah. And she shoots up the drug den with the shotgun. Very, very cool. And yeah, it did remind me of the 2004 Punisher, where, the hero is working his or her way up the food chain of the mafia. She can't just walk right into the mob boss's office. Has to, mess up some shipments to get them a warning from the guy who's never seen for the rest of the movie. And yeah, just I was intending on reading the abridged script before recording this video. Is that too late? I mean, they tend to be fairly short. Let me just real quickly see. And you've got the I think her name is Inman. She's looking for the base of Riley, and I'm gonna try not to have dead air as I look for the abridged script. I must have favorited it. I just forgot that I had favorited it. And this is dead air, I apologize. This air is dead air. There we go. Let's see, can I do that like this maybe? And open sesame. And they blow up the building with her inside of it. At first I was like, why didn't she just turn around and go back out the way she came? But I guess she wouldn't necessarily be safe from the explosion if she hadn't crawled under there. Now that's where we're gonna go back. And yeah, I'm not gonna read aloud the script, but I am gonna comment on stuff I really like in it. And again, try not to have dead air. The alternate title for it is Angel of Death Wish, which is quite, yeah. And Jen's pointing her gun. It's from the store where she points at the clerk. Shit got real after someone else grabbed the last bottle of Skinny Girl White Cranberry Cosmo. Yeah. She's badass, but she does also kind of look, you wouldn't think she looked intimidating if you didn't know. Yeah, that's quite good. And Girl Scout knockoff group. And yeah. The script points out that, if she tries to be a credible action hero again, you will be on my fucking list. And the audience stays seated just for that. Now, and her daughter orders peppermint because, they're having ice cream. She orders peppermint because it's never occurred to anyone to make an action-packed drug crime movie called Heavenly Hash. Why is this movie called Peppermint? I do appreciate that the hokey, corny-ass line in the trailer about, you've got peppermint in your heart or something like that. I really appreciate that that's not in the movie. I guess between putting the trailer out and, doing the final cut of the movie, they realized just how, that's terrible. And the daughter's like, Mommy, for real, why didn't you cut that bitch? Oh, sweetie, violence isn't the answer, but there's an arsenic-laced lemon square at the next PTA bake sale with her name on it. And... yeah... And in the end, we have each other. Not anymore. And... yeah, as Jennifer Garner passes out, she's like, and that's why we've got to build the wall. And... yeah. Jennifer, I just want you to know that I'm the one person in the entire criminal justice system who's going to show any concern for you in the first 2 acts. What about the 3rd act? And he looks away and whistles. Now. And here's what they also pointed out in the midnight screening. And you recognize all 3 of these men, even though you were about 30 feet away and there were car windows between you. And in the midnight screens, they also pointed out they were firing guns. The gun muzzle flash would obscure their faces. Yeah. It has to be them. They had the biggest neck tats in the lineup. Bullshit, Your Honor. Couldn't agree more. As far as the court's concerned, this case never happened. And... did these guys' bosses buy off everyone in this room? And everyone in this room looks away and whistles. And... let's see... I'm going to try not to make a habit out of this. We've managed to trace Jennifer all over the world since she's never learned to cover her face, despite having become a weapons expert, arsonist, mixed martial artist, and cargo thief who can perform surgery on herself. It seems she's murdered all 3 of those bad hombres, plus the judge and the lawyer. And the bitchy Girl Scout mom? Not yet. And... I appreciate that this script refers to them as bad hombres. Yeah, this is really tacky. I'm going to get more into that, but yeah. I'm probably going to call the segment politics. So if that's what you're here for, skip to the time code of that in the description box. Lately she's been shooting, we think her priority right now is the top bad hombre. Lately she's been shooting tattooed Hispanic men on sight under the assumption that they all work for him. And that's wrong. Of course it's wrong. She should be detaining them on sight, not shooting them. Now that's Fed talk. And exterior of the really shady part of Los Angeles. Let's see. Yeah. Wow, they really did put in a pinata store, didn't they? That is... Why do I feel like there's a lag? There's not usually a lag. Let's see. You're about to get peppered with justice. Oh, with bullets, sorry. And... yeah. The bad hombres shoot at Jennifer repeatedly and miss every single time. She kills about 2/3 of them in one shot each. The not remotely shitty part of Los Angeles. Let's see. Who could have predicted that a 134-pound woman could get so good at taking out men 3 times her size, with 3 times her experience with assault rifles? We suck at this. Did you kill all 20 of them, the guys guarding my home to get in here? Yep, all of them. I never run out of ammo, and I always take a second to aim this thing. Why am I trying to kill you? I should hire you. I don't want a job. I want justice, justice. You mean against the bitchy Girl Scout one? Not yet. And the Garcia's daughter comes in. Why does this lady make you look like a chump? A little girl? Oh, fuck! Enter the part we've all been waiting for. And yeah, Peggy opens the door to a disheveled, blood-stained Jennifer. Oh, how distasteful. And she punches her and ties her to a chair. Looks like I'm the one who's minty fresh now. I got big on Alias. I should be a lot better at this. I do think she gives a good performance, and so a lot of critics. And let's see. Yeah, a mural of Jennifer, the angel wings made out of assault rifles. NRA spokeswoman Dana Loesch gets a brilliant idea for t-shirts. Now, come on out, Jennifer. We've got the nearest little girl we could find. Yeah, what were they gonna do if they hadn't found her? Peppermint's here and I'm in full effect. Sergeant Loney Arts Club Band. And yeah, I'm standing my ground. But my little girl loves ice cream too. And presses the muzzle against his forehead. What flavor? Cookies and cream? Wrong answer. Yeah. And she shoots everyone. And now, she said justice so many times that it no longer sounds like a word. Prison for life? No, actually, you've been given your own show on Fox News. Yeah, I'm not gonna read out the entire. It was great, but yeah. Now let's see. And excuse me. Let's see. Just going through the comments now. And yeah, and here the script author says she gave it 2 stars because in spite of how very stupid the movie was, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. And yeah, same here. Now, let's see. Now, and yes, that is all of that. So, back to, yes, Jen steals the car from the Good Samaritan. And, you know, she chases down the trigger guys in the car. And, you know, the gate opens because it's the same guy as the... I guess he's still alive because the car drives once she leaves it. So I guess she was in the back seat pointing a gun at his neck, and he was like, let me in. I ignore the fact that I'm the only person there, and they were expecting him, you know. But, yeah. Decent way for her to get into the compound. Now, yeah, she's about to kill the villain, but his daughter distracts. And, you know, Jen finds Peg and punches the other mother of the other brother. I'm going to burn your house down with you inside. Stop screaming, it was a joke. See, again, there were some chuckles in the theater. For a second there, it was like, wait, is she serious? Now, let's see. And we see Mustache Cop with the Fed. And he shoots the Fed for Garcia. Now. And we see dozens of goons in the homeless area. Wait, you know, there for Jen. I guess it was too much to ask for that she managed to kill all of them. Instead, they got, like... Or did she manage to kill any of them? I think they all got arrested, but yeah. And, let's see... Yeah, she's basically passed out on the floor as guys with guns are close by, and then they call for reinforcements. And her daughter's like, Mommy, wake up. And the movie has a lot of kills, and some of them are really cool. And, you know, there's the trap thing, and triggers a flashbang. And with the flashbang in effect, Jen easily guns them down, which is like Counter-Strike with a lot less swearing 14-year-olds. In some ways, this movie is very half-hearted. Dialogue is one of them. The filming is also fairly straightforward, not like inspired and such. You know, I give the movie Taken a lot of crap, deservedly so, but the filming and editing is very tight, and you're always easily following what's going on, where there were times where action scenes were, you know, too swiftly edited and such. And, you know, we realized that Mustache Cop is running for Garcia, but I'm like, was he can't have been doing that at the very start, because there's no reason for someone working for Garcia to have them spotted in the lineup, is there? I guess the idea might be that if they weren't recognized in the lineup, maybe the cops would hold them. No, wait, didn't he say that this is the last chance to spot them in the lineup? I mean, it seems like it's one of those twists that don't make any sense the moment that it's a twist because you don't expect him to be working for the bad guy because he's been helping Jennifer. But, you know, that's obviously... I never thought that idea of the Fed and him getting together was particularly compelling in the movie, but it is one of those things where ultimately I'm babbling. Ultimately, it turns out the reason he showed an interest in her was to find out what she knew so that he could, and once he got a chance, once they were alone together, he killed her. And, he used her to find out where Jen's base was. And, Jen's on the phone. She invites the press and people with cell phones to come film. I get that she wants, no, I don't. I don't know why she does that, but the problem I have with it is that actually literally means that people might be killed in the crossfire, What if those people got there before the cops did and, the gangsters start shooting? And, Jennifer taunts the villain and is punched in return. Garcia shoots mustache cop. She fights Garcia, shoots him, is shot by cops, and she passes out by the family grave. And, tweets are on her side, is mentioned again. And he lets her out, of course. I have to say, everything about Jennifer helping people other than by killing criminals, I really didn't think was that compelling. It feels like they wrote most of it, and then they were like, I guess we gotta have stuff where she's doing stuff other than killing people that's helping, and it just really isn't. It was satisfying to see her punch the, peg, but ultimately, and then she's like, he dumped you for someone younger and prettier, didn't he? And I guess it's supposed to be like she sympathizes, that girl power and such, but it just comes across as petty and mean. And I mean, again, Peg is a really nasty person, but in what way does that help? If what it was if once she once she was sure, he left you for someone younger, let's say that then it's and he hit you, didn't he? Give me his address. I'm gonna go beat him up or something, but instead it's just, you thought you had such a perfect life, but now it's not working out so well. It just, it seemed spiteful. I kind of got the sense that either the writing or direction there, they didn't get, or they didn't want to do a sort of just, I don't know. I mean, honestly, if it had turned out that she had been using her influence in the Girl Scout thing to smuggle drugs in Girl Scout cookie boxes, and then Jennifer finds out and kills her brutally, that could have been, maybe I'm not sure I would have hated that. Now, here are these are not anywhere near as good as the as the possible sequel titles for, that the people in the chat put in the midnight screens, but here they are. Peppermint 2, After 8. Or maybe something like, this time it's mintier, this time it's peppery, berries, peppermint. And I guess, if they were going to do the whole thing where people are arguing over whether she's a hero, I just feel like the Boondock Saints, the first movie, did a better job of showing how divisive that discussion is, and not trying to take a specific stance in whether, I mean, the movie's fairly, yeah, the movie is in favor of vigilantism, but it's not saying, both of these movies are pro-vigilantism, but this movie says, oh, you know, most people think that it's great, where that movie says some people would be for, some people would be against it, and it would break up friendships. Why did I do that? I need sleep. And I don't know. I feel like the idea of someone going around shooting a bunch of people, even if it's only bad people and if it's for a good cause. I mean, that's what every mass shooter, not every single one, but some of them say, oh, this is for a good cause. The people I'm shooting deserve to be shot. I don't think that there would be a huge amount of people who would be like, I mean, there are some people who say that detaining Mexicans, who cross the border, including their children, that's just. But you have a ton of people who realize that it's not. And it just, yeah. I think it's pretty silly for the movie. But then, yeah, that's, this and Death Wish, they just, dude, you're so out of touch. Like, if you want to peddle your silly revenge power fantasy, I hope it doesn't get very many people to grab a gun and do it. I hope no one watches these movies and decides to put them into practice. But if you're just, if you're gonna do that, don't pretend that the majority of America is on your side, because it's really, there are not that many people in America who still genuinely believe. Okay, that's an overstatement, but the majority of people in America today realize that the solution to problems isn't killing people who do bad things. Now, that brings us to, let's see, notes taken before watching. Now, let's see, in the trailer, she's like, what do I want? Justice. And I just wanted her to continue. When do I want it? On the 5-year anniversary of my family's murder. And here's a bunch from my ex-fiance. This is what she wrote to me as soon as she'd seen the trailer when it came out, months ago. And she pointed out, they misnamed the movie, though it's actually Alias the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Seriously, even down to the tank tops. And let's see. And she points out, the dude has a bad 70s porno stash, and she spends the last 5 years watching T2 over and over and calling Linda Hamilton, demanding to know what the real life inspirations were for the people she learned from. And she wondered if the tagline would be Hell Hath No Fury, Alias' original one. And let's see. And, she realized, Jen has Shauna doubling for her, as tends to be the case in these movies. I really appreciate that she got to show her face in Daredevil, even if it is a slightly, it's like, oh, no, that's definitely not Jennifer Garner, but, yeah, stunt doubles don't often get to show their face, and that does suck. Now, and the costume person's done several times before, And the hairstylist worked on Terminator and Terminator 2. And she noted it was the same director as Taken, wondering if she'll have a signature speech, which, again, I mean, they could easily have done that. Like, she calls, she communicates with Garcia near the end. It could easily have been a short speech instead of just, I'm going to shoot you in the head and wing it from there, and in the trailer, it's like, I'm going to kill every last one of you and wing it from there. And it's like, what exactly do you need to wing after you've killed every last one of them? That's kind of what you're trying to do, right? Anyway. And back to my own notes, Jennifer Garner is incredible at looking like she knows exactly what she's doing when dealing with guns, when doing martial arts and the like. This is not something every action star is good at. And she last played a badass in The Kingdom in 2007, a year after her stint as Sydney Bristow in Alias ended. And she spent the time between then and now playing sweet mothers in family films with their heart in the right place. And some family films that preach Christianity. So it's been a little over a decade. Maybe this is her releasing pent-up frustration, gestating frustration for so long, doing movies like that. As an Alias fan, I've missed her, but I do respect her decision. If you're bitter, you could always make it your headcanon that this is the eventual end to all of those movies. I've watched almost no Sweet movie that she's been in. I did watch 13 Going on 30 with my fiance, but I also, it's a cute film. It has problems, but, Jennifer Garner being sweet and cute is often really, really great. And, Judy Greer's fun in it. I wish that Mark Ruffalo got to have a personality, but sadly that's the case with a lot of these self-insert fanfic kind of things. That's not just true of, romantic comedies. There are a lot of male fantasy movies where the wife is, not very interesting because so that the men don't have to focus on her at all. Now, Jennifer Garner's characters don't usually have a huge kill count, at least not on screen. Apparently in this one, the IMDb trivia says it's 43, with 5 of them being off screen. So yeah, that's the first time that's happened. So I'm glad she got to do that at least once, although I'm not sure this is going to make for some big... I don't think she's going to stay with this kind of thing, not after the reception of this. And again, I really don't think that's her fault. It's the script and the direction. And, maybe she was so eager to get back to doing a movie like this that she wasn't as critical of the script offered. But, yeah. I don't really get the sense that she thinks it would be a good thing to go around just killing, people who are doing bad things. As, you're not going to end... You cannot kill every single one of them. At most, some time will pass and they will be replaced. The only way to solve these things is with proper, for example, increasing education, getting better jobs to people, making sure that people can make a living doing regular jobs, Now, right, not a great kill count on screen before this movie, despite her having played an assassin, both Daredevil and Elektra. Alias was essentially R-rated, and so was The Kingdom. So is this, where Daredevil and Elektra are PG-13. And I rewatched before watching this Dirty Laundry, since the script was written by the same guy, Taken by the same director, The Kingdom, Daredevil, Elektra, and the Alias Season 2 finale, all for Jennifer Garner being badass. Now, other than this rewatch of this one episode, I have not watched Alias since I watched an episode per day, culminating on February 3rd of 2016, when I did the last videos on the show. Now, Taken is swiftly cut using what I think is called frame cutting. I really appreciate that this isn't, and this movie would be unbearable if it did, because really, when you get down to it, the action scenes tend to be fairly quick. The martial arts and shooting in Taken tend to go by fairly quickly, so it doesn't feel like there's as much. On rewatch, honestly, I find Taken 2 more fun to rewatch, because the action scenes get a little more air to, they go on for longer and such. It's nowhere near as good of a movie. Not that Taken is a good movie. There's a lot wrong with Taken. I did a video on it. So, did I do more than one? Anyway. Right. There's a... Right. In this movie, since the action scenes go on much longer, I really appreciate that they didn't frame cut and such. It's cut more traditionally for action scenes. Now, as when I last checked, hours before going to the theater, the tomato meter had this at 10% with an average rating of 3.4 out of 10. With 10 fresh reviews and 87 rotten ones. And the audience score was 79, with an average rating of 4 out of 5, sorry, and 1,765 ratings. And yeah, again, that's a lot of people enjoyed this movie, and that is, I do also think, like I've been saying, the majority of Americans do not want this to happen in real life. A lot of the people who watched this movie and rated it on Rotten Tomatoes were the audience for the intended audience for this movie. A lot of people watched the trailer and were like, "Oh yeah, I don't need to watch that movie. I'm not into revenge fantasies." So, yeah, it's not. And again, if those people actually, if they saw the statistics, if they realized how many vigilantes, they end up killing the wrong person because there was. That's why we have a criminal justice system in the Western world, so that we can be sure that people are guilty before we punish them. And I'm not in favor of the death penalty either, though I do think life in prison can have a deterring effect. Now, that brings us nicely to politics. Now, I'm not going to go too much. I'm not going to go over all of this, but just briefly, there's this, let's see. There's let's see. Monica Castillo wrote on June 6th about the trailer that, it stirs up hate at a delicate time, and using these Latino stereotypes, which, let's see. She points out, the group is an unmistakable calling card for MS-13 gang members. Scapegoats President Trump is using to call immigrants animals and migrant children not that innocent. And she points out that The Crow, The Punisher, even Spider-Man have some similarities. And she points out channels Taken and John Wick. And I haven't watched John Wick yet, but I probably will. There are too many action movies and horror movies and sci-fi movies coming out. I sometimes struggle just to keep up with the comic adaptations, which are really what I'm focusing on. And then there are a couple of directors, and like with this, the occasional actor, but I tend to watch movies for the people behind the camera rather than in front of. I did used to watch for people in front of, and after watching some Jim Carrey movies that were not at all for me, I realized maybe I should pay more attention to the people behind the camera, because not every Jim Carrey movie is going to have a very Jim Carrey performance from him. Whereas, if you focus on the Tom Shadyac directed Jim Carrey movies, they're not all equally good, but you more or less know what you're going to get, and you're going to get the classic Jim Carrey comedy performance, you know. So if that's what you want, focus on him as a director instead. Yeah. What makes Peppermint gross isn't its revenge redemption arc, but the racist undertones of its heroine's actions. Riley is a white woman who takes justice into her own hands, killing a lot of Latino characters in the process. We're supposed to assume they're all bad, and so her actions are justified. Now, after watching the trailer, I was convinced this movie bought into the political rhetoric that conflates gang members with law-abiding immigrants. You know, look up, ICE has actually gone after people who are clearly not a threat to anyone. They're a really hateful, just awful, awful group. Now, let's see. While some are already heralding the girl power vibes of seeing Garner back in action, what I saw was the empowerment of one white woman at the expense of nameless brown faces. And yeah, and again, just to briefly, there are some amazing movies wherein, like, just briefly. To make sure that I can read my time codes for later. There we go. There are movies that are amazing for women, and some of those movies are action movies. And I just don't think this one really, it doesn't get that much right for it. And yeah, just ultimately, I don't think that very many people are going to walk away from this with the... I mean, the first two Terminator movies are empowering for women. You know, there are certain aspects of Monster. I mean, I guess, I don't know, is it empowering? It acknowledges how difficult it is for many women in America to get by and to, you know, to achieve any kind of social mobility. Wonder Woman is an amazing, empowering movie. And see, that's the thing. If this movie had come out years ago, long before back when the last thing people were like, you know, oh, Wonder Woman filmed, oh, like that horrible pilot that never even made it to air where Wonder Woman's a xenophobic monster, you know, I guess with that, no, it's not so much xenophobic, it's the fact that it is this vigilante justice, she's in favor of torture and such, right, I got it mixed up with something else. Sorry about that. Then this would be a different issue, but this just feels like... It feels like they just moved the rock, crawled out of the hole they've been in. I don't mean that as, like, offensive, but I'm just saying they're not paying attention to the zeitgeist. And we're like, how do we empower women? Let's put a gun in the hand of one and have her killing a bunch of men in brutal ways. It's just not, you know, Wonder Woman was a phenomenon. And this movie is just, yeah, I mean, part of it, if Riley was the husband and it was the wife who was killed, would this movie have played out? It would have played differently, but would it have played out differently? Whereas if, let's say you take Wonder Woman and gender swap, suddenly Diana's a man and the Amazons are all men, or if you take Black Panther and remove the they're no longer African. I mean, the movie is completely just, it's no longer the same movie at all. And that's how you do empowerment. Or that's a good aspect. Monster would be a completely different movie if the protagonist was male. It's not as though there aren't male prostitutes and men are raped and men try to get revenge. But yeah, just ultimately, I mean, honestly, for all I know, and I don't think this is the case, but honestly, if it turned out that the movie originally was about a man, and then they realized, oh hey, Atomic Blonde, people like that movie, let's make this one a woman too. And, we're not going to be able to compete with John Wick and The Equalizer, so let's just... I also need to watch the Equalizer movies, but, yeah, I suppose that covers... But, yeah, to get back briefly from her article, those few minutes in the trailer preview has the makings of a white savior trope. Someone thought it'd be a good time to cash in on the current fears about Latinos when our lives, from families ripped apart at the border to the post-hurricane devastation in Puerto Rico, are at stake. And I think that's the thing that's especially, a lot of people read things like this from progressives and are like, ugh, why are you getting so upset? Because people are hurt by this. And that's it would not have been difficult for this to be a white crime family. Honestly, if they make a movie where it's a Latino or Latina, that's Latinx, sorry, that's the gender neutral pronunciation, going up against a bunch of white people who have ruined... I mean, I don't know that I would want it to go as far as killing. Maybe do the Bourne trilogy thing, where not that many people are killed, but there's like exposing the nasty stuff in the background and like being a badass. Well, yeah, you know what? Make a version. Make a movie like that where it's a Latinx, protagonist who's been detained and separated from their children and, is having trouble being reunited with, their offspring, and so they go about like, they disappear for a while. And like the let's see, they learn to be a badass, and then they start like they break into the office of an ICE office, and get a bunch of information and then leak it to the public so people are aware of just how bad they are. And she like confronts some of the politicians responsible and gets them to admit they did it for the votes, they did it because it's an easy way to get if there aren't so many Latinx in the country, then there are fewer votes for Democrats. And it's not really about whether you do anything wrong. It's just that we can't stand you. We hate you and your culture because you're not white. And you know what? If this movie isn't being made, I really hope, the thing is, of course, progressives don't tend to make these violent revenge fantasies because we don't really, we don't really believe that that's, you know, you know what? If Paul Greengrass goes and makes, I think he could make it work. I mean, when you really think about it, the Bourne movies are not, they're progressive in a lot of ways, and they're really not that conservative. He doesn't kill that many people, and he's not doing it as some kind of, you know, it's this kind of, it's anti-government corruption. It's yeah. Anyway, now let's see, the other movies by this same director. I've only watched this and Taken. I think so. From Paris with Love and District 13, as far as I could tell from research, those are racist, and possibly The Gunman, and I think, Dirty Laundry, arguably also racist. And I think that covers everything. So, I did enjoy this movie, as I thought I would. Excuse me, Jennifer Garner, just, if I didn't, I might even, in an alternate universe where I have a tolerance for family movies, I might actually even watch the family movies that she's in. You know, it's just, I don't mind films that are made so that children can also watch them. It's been ages, but I know that last time I did watch the Never-Ending Story, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I will have to watch that movie again, so don't hold me to that. It's from memory. I know that there are definitely things about that movie. You know, it's absurdly depressing considering that it is supposed to be for children. But everything I've watched by Wolfgang Petersen, I've really enjoyed. You know, Never-Ending Story, Troy, Das Boot, Air Force One. I don't. There are people who don't like that movie. I don't know why. Now, I think that, right, the how did I get to, right, it's not movies that children can watch, it's the family movie. It's that genre of movie that you're supposed to sit down with the entire family. It's not too obnoxious for the parents, and it's non-threatening for the kids, you know, and I don't like that. I think some of the classical Disney animated movies are quite good. You know, I recently rewatched, several of them, and because they touch on important issues, you know, I always, when I first watched The Hunchback of Notre Dame by them, and I think Lindsay Ellis, in her video essay on the movie, says, you know, I don't have much to add to what she says in that. I think I love her video essays. I really appreciate the whole thing. You know, you can say, it's not very subtle, but the thing with who is, you know, it's a tale about a man and a monster, and then this thing of who is a monster and who is the monster and who is the man, and the way that it shows the persecution of Romani is just so devastating. And I mean, I can't say for sure because I watched it so often. I got the VHS as a present when I was a kid, so I watched that movie a million times. But if I had watched it just once, yes, the early, especially the opening with the persecution of the Romani, and just every single little bit of the bells of Notre Dame and Hellfire, you know, they do such a great job on these complex issues. Hellfire is not something that the children understand. That's there for people who are, you know, older. But you the opening with the Romani persecution, and Frollo's just, he refuses to feel guilty that he's just killed a woman who's protecting her child, who doesn't appear to be doing anything wrong, and he's about to drown an infant because he doesn't like the look of the infant, So yeah, it's just I think that you can put complex issues into a movie made so that children can also watch it. And I don't like when you make movies for children that don't have anything like that. They're just, the whole family can sit down, if you want something like that, just, I don't know. It seems like, I think I've said enough about the subject. There's a thing. Yes, so I'm probably not going to watch the Jennifer Garner movies that she made between The Kingdom and this. And I'm also just not really into romantic comedy and such. It's been too long since I watched Catch Me If You Can and Pearl Harbor. God, fuck that movie. Pearl Harbor. Catch Me If You Can is fine, from what I recall. Seriously, fuck Michael Bay. You know what? I haven't watched anything of his after. I used to think Bad Boys 2 was the most recent. I did watch The Island, but it's just like, well, that sure is a prettier version of Parts the Clone as Horror, but it's not that much more compelling necessarily. But yeah, I haven't watched any of his Transformer movies, and that is something that I am grateful for every single day. I heard that Pain and Gain is good. I don't know. The trailer seemed fine. But Bad Boys, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. I realize these are not in chronological order. Just, I can't stand them. And Bad Boys 2, just no. So, Jennifer Garner, I loved Alias, and I love watching Alias, and I really enjoyed this movie. I'm still collecting my thoughts on The Kingdom. I guess that's basically it. If you've watched this far and you still haven't watched the movie and haven't made up your mind, if you enjoy watching Jennifer Garner being a badass and kicking a lot of ass, yeah, it's fun. Just don't expect. You know what? I remembered more from this movie than I did from Taken 3. So it's not. It could be worse. Yeah. So anyway, enjoyed watching the movie, and I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I recorded enjoying it. And cutting broadcast now.